Hi guys, you asked me to do a real quick video on how to do this thing we call the graphic organizer. Uh, it's going to be a little bit longer than what I had planned, but I want to be able to explain of how to move completely from the brainstorming into the graphic organizer, making the decisions and everything that we need to do to make sure that you have what you need. Uh, by the end of the video, I'm going to give you a real quick kind of a checklist just to make sure, kind of tips and tricks to remember what you need. And hopefully this will end up in a really great thumbs up. All right, let's get started. So we have to start with a text in any kind of brainstorming. And the chosen text is the one that you did for your poem, whichever one that you chose. And we got to start putting ideas together. Now, this is a web, but that doesn't mean that that's the kind of brainstorming you did. I've taken this from everything that we have in Blackboard and then everything that we kind of talked about. So if you do free writing, if you do anything else, just keep adding your ideas. And as we go through, we're just kind of brainstorming and finding an idea that relates. I'm not sure where this idea really goes, so I'm just going to put it over to the side. It might come in later on or it might not. We're just not sure yet. So we just kind of keep adding those ideas. And as we're thinking a little bit more, then let's just go ahead and add some more detail in it. See, we can't just start with a regular idea and then leave it at that. This is college. We've got to go further. So let's add some more details into where we're headed. And then we've got to get some supportive statements. What are those things that provide evidence or examples or the little explanation pieces that allows our reader to really relate to what we're talking about and understand the text that we're doing? The thing is that now we have to make some decisions. If we have finished and we fleshed out as much as we can on our brainstorming, where do we go from here? So let's kind of take a look and see where things are. This idea number 3 doesn't really go anywhere, so we're not going to put that in the text, right? And this unrelated idea never really came to fruition, so we don't need that either. Now, this idea number 1 has a couple details, but if you look over here, this area is where we really flesh it out. It has the supportive details, it has some explanation, it has some really great ideas that we can get into. So that's what I mean by talking about the best ideas. That's what you write your paper about, because that's where it's going to go somewhere. So let's just focus on exactly where our paper is going and go from there. Now we've got to do the graphic organizer, right? And this is really just a visual way to take that brainstorming and kind of categorize the ideas. If you look on the right-hand side, all these little boxes that I gave you, the first one is introduction, then you have your main ideas all the way down to the conclusion. That's all we're doing here. So we're going to plug the ideas in directly from the brainstorming into the specific categories. All it is just organizing the information kind of vertically so we see where everything fits in. The tip and trick here is to make sure that you're not going to be doing any sentences or anything else, just words and phrases only. First, you only have so much room. And second, we're not writing a paper yet, so don't try. So if we take our brainstorming, moving it to the graphic organizer, how are we going to do that? The first thing that we have to do is introduce the text. This is where it goes here. So in the introduction section, there's a couple things that you have to have in here though. The poem title, in quotation marks, the author name. Make sure, like, our author is Langston Hughes. We have to talk about Langston Hughes, introduce the full name. After that, as I said in class, you can't call him Langston. It's too informal. So you can say Langston Hughes, you can say Hughes, you can say the author, the poet, the writer, whatever you want to do, but you can't call him Langston. We don't know him, so we can't do it. Of course, then you have your hook statement and you have your thesis. All of this is just terms, phrases, individual words, just enough to get those ideas in there. Where is the introduction, the pieces that we need to fit in there? After that, we start moving forward. Our idea number 2, this is where we start developing in the body, in the center section of the graphic organizer. So we move forward and keep developing those ideas, pulling them from the specific areas of our brainstorming. Again, phrases and words only. And we just keep working all the way to that conclusion. Remember that conclusion, that's our takeaway. That's where the reader has to figure out what is it that we're supposed to remember. They're not going to do it by themselves, so you have to give it to them. So make sure that you're leading up to a really great kind of finale so you finish the paper off well. Now, here is our tips and tricks to really remember that checklist. The first thing, again, I keep saying, use words and phrases only. We're not writing a paper. We don't want to get stuck into any kind of sentences yet. So the phrases and words, we're going to lead that into the outline anyway. So the phrases and words is going to keep us going. Discuss the text and its meaning for your reader. So each section of that graphic organizer, you have to make sure that you have those points. You can use maybe specific quotations, small phrases, small words that can give you those elements of the text itself. You can refer to it, kind of summarize something if you need to, but then explain the meaning of what is happening in the text. So that way your reader's kind of understanding where this poem is going, what is going on, what is Hughes trying to do. The interpretation is what we're talking about. Next, again, those pieces of evidence is going to be really key. Small quotations. Make sure that anything that you have that's word for word is in quotation marks. It came from the text. You have to say that it came from the text, and the quotation marks are going to do that. Now, for this paper, we don't have to worry about citations or anything else because we know what we're doing within the paper, and we're not there yet. That's Comp 2. So enough just to say that it's Langston Hughes and in the introduction, and then to quote it in your paragraphs, that's plenty. Create examples that are going to help you relate the text itself to the meaning. So for instance, you could have an example from real life. You can have an example from history. We've talked about that in class. Those examples are the comparisons that you're making that makes your reader kind of see it and how it works and how it relates to what they know. So examples helps in the explanation. Explain everything. If you haven't explained it, if you use a quotation and you haven't explained it, it's not going to make sense to your reader. If you give an example and you haven't explained the relationship, it's not going to make sense to the reader. So explain, explain, explain. If you have to ask yourself questions and you don't have the answer in the actual paragraph, like if you create a question out of your topic sentence, make it into a question, and if you don't have the answer in the paragraph, you haven't explained it enough. Simple, simple. The other thing is get feedback. You know how I like the feedback. So it might take a little bit for me to get it to you, but I will get it to you. So get that feedback. Pretty soon we're going to be using the upswing. So make sure that you have all of that ready to go. We're going to be using that when you get into the drafting stage. But for right now, a quick text message or an email is an easy thing to do. It only takes a few minutes, so make sure you get your feedback. I hope you guys have a little bit more clarity here. And if you have any questions, then be sure to contact me. If not, know that you guys really rock. Have a great day. Thank you.